Long, long ago, and across 7 seas, there was a young Samorita girl by the name of Sirena, who lived with her parents and her godmother, Marlena. And together they lived on the tropical island of Guam. As a little girl, she loved the water. The river Saduk Hagatnia drew her in. She liked to feel it, to touch it, to splash. As she grew, she learned how to swim. Her father, Tata, he would say, "You are the best pececito in all of the river." But Marlena, the godmother, she would say as the girl grew, "You are the fastest guihan in all of the river." And the young girl, as she grew, she loved these terms of endearment. But it was Nana, her mother, who detested these fish-like terms of endearment. You see, it was Nana's responsibility to raise this young girl. It was her responsibility to teach her the art of weaving, to teach her how to cook the wonderful, delicious fish recipes, and how to learn how to cook other Chamorro delicacies. Now, Tata, the father, he often would go off with the other Chamorro men, and he would be gone for weeks upon end, whaling on the open sea. And every time he left, as Sirena grew, he would kiss her. "Mi pececito, listen to Nana. Be good. Pay attention. Don't be distracted by the Saduk." But the two of them would embrace and they would giggle together, because they knew full well that she was going to be distracted. And as the years went on, this bothered Nana more and more. As Nana taught Sirena the art of weaving, the girl wove so beautifully, but the way she moved her hand and moved the fabric, well, you could see the river flowing. When she went down to the river to fish, she was good. She learned to clean the scales very well. She learned to cook the most delicious, savory fish. But then she would leave Nana with the dishes. She was back in the water. Nana decided she needed to give this girl a chore. And the chore she chose was that she should go to houses that were more wealthier, where they kept fire. And there she could get the charcoal in the morning, bring it back to the house, and then Marlena or others could do the ironing and the cooking. Now, when she was young, of course, she did that chore completely well. She would go, get the charcoal, she would come back. But as she grew, and as this desire to be in the water became more and more apparent for her, she began to leave earlier, go into the water, a quick dip, get the charcoal, come back. But Nana would be furious. She could see that her beautiful hair, her dark black hair, was sopping wet, and she did not like it one little bit. One day, while Sirena was making a Chamorro dessert, she was chopping up the bananas. She boiled it in coconut milk, added the sugar, added the cinnamon. All was well. But you see, as time went on and the river kept beckoning her to come and swim, she would often forget an ingredient or two. So then it had to be thrown out. And Nana became more and more frustrated. In fact, you see, somehow Nana did not seem to have this youthful naivety that Sirena did. In fact, she would say that it was her youthful flaw. But of course, Tata and Marlena, they loved the girl as she was. She had the darkest eyes that could survey the entire island and hold all of its wonderment deep in her heart. Nana started to say to her, "Why don't you find ways to not be so distracted?" So in time, she would hold up her hand, try to walk, try to not see the river. But one morning, when she went and she got the big amount of charcoal and it was burning hot, on her way back, she put up her hand so she would not see the river, but she and the river was just coming in and out. And the charcoal was so hot. Why not put it down for a little bit? What harm could come of going in for a little swim? And so she laid it down, she went into the water, and she swam. Far out to where the blue sapphire meets the ocean. But time passed. So much so that her little sister was already now down by the water, getting water in an urn for her mother and calling, "Sirena, Sirena, Mama's waiting for you. They need the charcoal. When are you coming?" But when the little girl's urn was filled, she was not going to get scolded by her mother. She went home with it. And Sirena, of course, swam longer, got out, and by the time she did, that charcoal was smoldering. Well, what was she going to do? She was now a teen, and so she butt heads with her mother. That type of thing happened, even in Guam. Nana was furious with her, and she started to get more and more impatient, especially when the Chamorro men were out on sea. It seemed as if a frosty breeze blew in from the ocean and affected her moods. One morning, before the Chamorro men were coming home, she said to Sirena, "Go and take this basket. Go to Auntie's house across the bay. Go and get the breadfruit for me, because the men are coming home and I want to prepare a feast for them." Sirena picked up the basket, but in a split second, her mother took her hand and clutched it around Sirena's slim hand. And Sirena could feel her mother pressing harder and harder in her wrist. She could feel her mother's nails digging in like talons. She had no choice but to look her mother in the eye. "Do not go to the water. Whatever you do, you come directly back. Straight to Nana's, straight home. There is much work to be done. Do you hear me?" Sirena ran free. And as she padded her way along the sandy path, the basket moving by her side, she was running, perhaps because of what Nana had just done. But she ran quickly, quickly, and she got to the crest, just where you overlooked the bay. Her heart was racing, it was pounding. She stopped for a few minutes. She began to bring in the warm tropical air into her body. It helped to calm her. And a few minutes later, just above her head, she saw a flock of birds squawking and chirping and sailing all above her head. And then she watched as they dove right down to the bay. They swooped into the water. And when they came out and spread their wings, water droplets on their wings like diamonds shimmering. She noticed fish jumping in and out of the water. She saw the ripples they were making, and she wanted to make ripples. In that very instant, Sirena lost all of her sensibility. She took the basket, she placed it down, and she thought, what harm can come? I will just go in for a few moments. She needed to go in. She had to feel that water. She had to see it glisten on her long black hair that cascaded around that innocent face. And in she went, and she swam, and she swam to the farthest reaches, to where you cannot feel the sand down on the bottom anymore. And she had a marvelous time. But time passed. So much so that when she came out from one of her dives, there were no birds flying overhead. And the sun was now hiding behind the horizon. And dusk was now settling on the tropical island. She immediately swam out. She immediately picked up that basket. It was empty. Night was now putting a lightless cloak around her body. And it did not care one bit, no pity for her, as she began to cry. She knew that Nana was going to be furious with her. And what was she going to say? She would be disappointing her mother. She picked up the basket. She began to head home. But now she started to cower alongside of the house. What am I going to say? What excuse can I possibly make up? Oh, I don't even care anymore. Nana for sure is just going to scream and yell. And just then, a branch from a tree began to move. And she thought, Tau Mona? An ancestral spirit coming to scold me, perhaps? But no. Coming out from the shadows was Nana. And in Nana's eyes was fire. And it was burning. And in that second, Nana began to spew the most incredible wrath. Shame on you! Shame on you, you idle, careless child! How dare you! I had to go to Auntie's, and I had to do all of the work today. I had to do everything while you just played in that water. And then Nana did the unthinkable. Nana continued to unleash her wrath. Sirena, if you ever go down to the river and touch it again, you will become a fat, ugly fish. Do you hear me? Everyone could hear her. Madalena in the house immediately began to pray on her knees to the ancestral spirits, begging them to dim the curse that Nana had just placed upon her goddaughter's head. Oh, Hans, wherever you may be, please do not let her body be transformed to gray, dark, dry scales. Do not let her eyes become vacant. And please do not let her mouth become wide and gaping and wordless. Please take my spiritual responsibility and bestow upon Sirena. Leave her intact with her beauty and her beautiful voice and her joyful spirit for all eternity. Madalena was now on her way out to where Nana and Sirena was standing. She went to reach for the girl, grab her by the hand, but Sirena turned her back and began to run as fast as she could down to the river. And when she reached it, she stopped. She stared into the glassy, calm water. She could see in the reflection the orange moon rising up above the horizon. She was crying. She did not want to leave her ancestral home. She did not want to leave the tropical flowers and vines. She did not want to leave her siblings or the family. But what choice did she have? She knew in her heart that she could not and would not last even a half an hour, a minute, not even a day, without touching the water again. Splash. She entered, and she began to swim as far out as she possibly could. And as she did, she began to feel the change. Her legs began to twist and turn and bind. And when it was done, she lifted up her legs, sure that she would see dry, gray scales. But no, in its place were the most beautiful iridescent tail from the waist on down. And again she began to swim to where that sapphire blue reaches the ocean, and she noticed her arms were hers, and her body from here on up, and her black hair still cascading, and it would still shimmer in the tropical sunshine, just as she always loved. And she tested her voice. Goodbye. Farewell. And it was beautiful and it was lyrical. Some say that to this day, that Samoro men, when they go out whaling on the open seas and they come back home to the island, they can hear this beautiful voice welcoming them for safe passage. Some say that on a very stormy night, you can still hear Nana crying. For she had broken a promise. She had broken a proverb that she grew up knowing. It's a Samoro proverb that says, be careful what you ask for once you do, you can never take it back.